All right, so let's continue. So again, so it's as the same summary view that we worked on a couple of sprints ago. You're welcome to use you work on the same summary view that you worked on a while back, or if you want to choose another one, that's fine. Or if you want to stay with the details view that you worked on before, you're welcome to do that as well. For the design, it's the same data model that we presented a couple of sprints ago. If you need to make changes, slight modifications, please go ahead. I don't believe you need to make too many changes, but if you do, please report that in your tickets, in your Jira tickets, whatever modifications you're making, and assign those tickets to the TAs for verification. Let's see. Design, summary, wireframes. Okay, so this is a discussion that describes the behavior of each one of them, right? Which I just described earlier. Being able to update or create or search or delete that particular record, or cancel, that goes back to the summary view. Also, we didn't implement last week connecting these two, the summary view and the details. We're going to do that this week as well. If you click on any particular record, it'll navigate to the details version of this, right? It'll load that particular record and display it in the details page. Okay, so the navigation stays the same as we covered a couple weeks ago, right? So it's and the different teams again are still assigned to the various use cases. We still have the admin page from where we can navigate to all the frequently asked questions use cases, right? That's team 2, I believe. Team 1 had all the use cases for handling users and services and categories, and Team 3 had all the services managing the questions and answers for services. Yes? So we'll maintain that layout. In a couple of sprints, we're going to switch that, right? Remember, we're going to have folks inherit somebody else's code, right? So we'll have a chance to work with a legacy code, right? We all love that, having to deal, handle and fix somebody else's code. Right, so, but not just yet, right? We'll do that after we come back from the break. Okay, so those are all the requirements and whatnot. So let's talk about the actual tasks. So there is no organization this sprint, right? There are just team level tasks, and there are individual level tasks, right? So the team level tasks are similar to the ones we cover every single sprint, right? You'll do some grooming of the backlog, right? See if you had already stories that you have created from previous sprints that could be worked on. Remember that we had created tons and tons of tickets, Jira tickets, that we weren't targeted to work on previous sprints, but again, we wanted to fill up that backlog, and probably a few of those stories that we might work on this sprint. So if you already have stories that at least very briefly describe some of the features that we're describing here, it's time to identify them and put them in the current sprint, right? So do that. So meet as a team and do some grooming of that backlog and identify those stories. Also, again, as a team, choose what screen you're going to be working on, right? Whether it's going to be the summary view or the details view, and whether you're going to be working on whatever feature on that particular view, either CRUD or filtering or pagination, right? So you need to create stories for them. You need to size them, and then assign them. So remember that we're rotating the Scrum Master. So I know some of you were keeping the same Scrum Master for 2 weeks. If you've had the same Scrum Master for a while, I'd like to rotate that. Okay, so don't have the same person have to deal with that same role. So yeah, so choose someone else and have that person call all these meetings. So again, so today's the end of the sprint. Let's close the sprint. Any things that you had not completed on the sprint, we'll bring them over they're going to roll over to the next sprint. But this sprint is not going to be 1 week. It's going to be almost 3 weeks, right, before we come back. It's going to have a next week's kind of dead because we have to do the midterm. Then we have a spring break, and then the real work that you'll have a chance to work on is right when you come back. So let's do a 3-week sprint this time around. Let's see. Right. So this is talking about that for each one of these features that you choose, each one of these features will entail having to work on the various parts of the stack. Right. So you might need to do some work on the front end. You need to do some work in the middle tier. You need to do some work on the model, and also on probably in the database as well. So create maybe a 1 or 2 point story for each one of those tasks, and also leave some points for creating the unit test as well, right? So yeah, so just like we covered last week, right? Now we're going to be tracking also unit tests. From now on for the remainder of the semester. One additional thing is that we're going to be asking you to do in planning ahead what's coming up in the next couple of sprints is that whatever feature you do choose to work on, okay, we're going to ask you to write up a fairly verbose acceptance testing, right? We've done that before, but we've done it somewhat informally. But this time it's for real, right? We're gonna write some fairly rigorous acceptance tests so that what's going to happen is that whatever feature you worked on, Team 1, those are going to be tested by Team 2. Team 2 are going to look at all your features that they did not work on, you worked on. They're going to look at your acceptance tests and they're going to go through it. Okay, they're going to go through it and they're going to log bugs against anything that doesn't work just right. Right. So make sure that you write the acceptance testing. Make sure that you go through that acceptance testing. Make sure that everything's working as advertised, right? And have enough information in there for whatever other team comes along to go through it and verify that everything is working. They're also going to do some code reviews against your implementation. So make sure to include a link to your pull requests as part of the ticket. They're going to look at your pull requests. They'll look at some implementation. If they find any technical debt, anything that it's not following the best practices that we've been covering, like RESTful best practices, data model best practices, naming conventions, all that good stuff, right? They're going to look through that and they're going to log, they're going to log issues against you, right? So that's also going to be part of this sprint. So an acceptance test, so that other teams are gonna go through, and you're gonna verify somebody else's acceptance test, right? So that you're gonna cheat on you're gonna cheat on each other. You're gonna tell on each other. Let's see what else. As always, create a 1 Jira ticket per team, one Jira ticket per team, and assign it to the TA, and log anything that has to do with the team in that ticket, right? So any outcomes from any meetings that you've had during sprint planning, all your Scrum meetings, right, should be linked to that Jira ticket. Again, let's help the TA, have everything in one single place so that they can follow along and see what's going on in your team. Again, if you have any concerns, please log them in there. Any team level concerns, please log them in that ticket. Right. So have sprint planning. Create. If you prefer, depending on the granularity that you wanna keep track of your work. It's okay to create to lump together several tasks, perhaps in one ticket, a larger ticket, so maybe a 2 or 3 point tickets. I'd rather you have smaller ones, and you burn them off out of your plate, as opposed to having one big one, right? And you only get half done, right? So that would make it very very cumbersome to bring that across in the next sprint. So it's easier to to have lots of smaller stories and to track them. So I prefer smaller stories. Again, Scrum Meetings keep track of your in a Google Doc of all your meetings. Meet for 5 to 15 minutes every day, at least twice a week, and if you can't meet face to face, you can still use email or Slack or whatever remote tool you prefer. Even if you're not doing anything that particular day, right? Say that you didn't do anything that day. That's fine. I know you have other courses, other things to do, but we want to have a history of what you've been up to. All right, so that's the team level task. For the individual tasks, so there'll be some work that you'll need to do in the front end. I'll give you some starting code we'll go over today, which will basically be if you get into work on the CRUD side, the CRUD implementation. I'll give you some examples on how to do that. You'll probably have to create a component. You probably already have the component. You probably already have the service on the JavaScript side. You're going to have to enhance a couple things in there. You'll probably have to create an additional create and updates and delete. You probably already have the finders in there, so I'm just listing them here for examples here, but you probably have to add a couple other functions in there. So that's 20 points, the front end side. For the web servers, you'll probably also have to enhance the RESTful services that go along with this. You probably already have the finders implemented already there. You'll need to enhance it by adding create, updates, and deletes. Again, that's another 20 points. There might be that the same service will be used by multiple folks. Okay, it might be that in the same service, the folks that are working on the CRUD will be implementing these 3 functions, and the folks that are working on the filtering will be working on in the same file, right? So careful, right? Remember that no code should go without a pull request. And that you should never merge to master directly. Have somebody review your code, especially if you're sharing the code, and perhaps you might have feature branches, and you might need to merge each other's branches, right, so that you keep track of your own work, off of master. So that'll add some interesting dependencies and folks working on the same. Careful stepping over each other's toes. So careful there, right? So some of the web services will be shared amongst multiple folks, so careful there. The data model, that's another 10 points. That'll be somewhat more the easier part. You probably need to create a couple of JPQL queries that go out to the database. You'll have to create unit tests, right? That exercise we'll see today how to do this. You have to mock the data service. You have to mock the controller. Right, so that you can test the unit test all by itself, independently of the rest of the framework. And we're asking for a starting coverage of 80%. I don't think it'll be too hard to reach 80%. You're probably already there. So that's, I think, it's a realistic place to start. Again, every sprint we're going to bump that up 80, 85, 90, and so on and so forth. We'll see how close we get to 100. And for each implementation for every feature that you worked on, you have to create an acceptance criteria, right? So step by step, whatever it is that you worked on, step by step script, right? That should enable somebody else to go through and navigate to your particular screen on Heroku. Right, the folks should be able to test this on your deployed Heroku website. So provide the link right on the ticket, right? So whoever comes in and tests this, they can just click on that link, navigate to that screen, and start running through your acceptance tests, right? And they'll go through the test. So make sure you go through it, okay? Make sure that, or maybe give it to someone in the same team, and have them go through it. Make sure that you didn't forget any particular step. Again, there's several deliverables. There's no organization level deliverables this sprint. There's only team level deliverables and individual level deliverables. There might be some epics that you might have created in Jira already in previous sprints for the same use cases that you're going to be working on in this assignment. So, you're welcome to reuse those same epics that you already had. If you don't have an epic, you should already. Then just create it. And make sure that you create it individually. Make sure that you provide all the links to the Jira stories that you create. Again, there's one ticket per team, right, that gets assigned to the TA, and then there's one ticket per team member, right, that gets assigned to the TA. So this time around there'll be, let's see, that's 9, 10, 11, 12 tickets total, right, that get created for the TA to then go in and check on the work. Make sure that you create that as in the individual level tickets, your ticket that you assign to the TA, that you include all links to any Jira stories that you've created or that you worked on in this sprint, any Heroku links to the specific screen that you worked on, also deployed on Heroku, working there. Any React components on GitHub, so provide links to all your source code on GitHub, or web services in JPA, and finally any pull requests that you might have created for folks to merge for you. Please provide that as well. This is just some reference on the wireframes and the screen flows from prior sprints. Okay. Any questions?